Alright, so just going to talk a little bit about herb gardens that you can have indoors year-round, and some of the herbs that are good for indoor use, and kind of what they're used for, how to care for them. So right now, this is sage, very common herb to be used in cooking, and as you can see there's a lot of dead growth right now which will need to be removed, which can be removed by hand. This stuff you won't use for actual cooking, but what you will use is things like this, the actual leaves themselves. So this has recently been cut back, and now you can see the new growth coming in. To get bigger leaves, you'd cut some of them back. So the soil will actually still do a slow release fertilizer and water accordingly. Obviously it's in the window where it gets direct sunlight, which is necessary, especially in the winter. And so it's a lot like flowers in the way that you'll cut it back if you want something to a node. The nice thing is with herbs is you can cut directly here, just one leaf, a couple leaves, take it, wash it, cut it up for cooking. It's awesome to have fresh herbs year-round, and yeah, you can keep this going. It doesn't die as long as you're taking care of it. You can see the new growth coming from here. As you cut it back, it'll continue to grow back. So sage, once again, very popular. Here, this isn't doing as well as would like, but we can cut it back once again and get the growth to come back. This is rosemary, used a lot in a ton of cooking, Italian cooking, beef. You can use it in about anything. So these, once again, you'd cut the actual leaves themselves. So you just come right here, or you can cut a bunch, or they call it a sprig, and then use that sprig for cooking. But same principles apply. One thing to note is if it is suffering from some kind of disease, then it will need to be treated. And the best way and the only practice you want to do is if you're treating it with any chemicals will be outside in a garage, somewhere with ventilation but away from regular household. Other plants you just treat outside and not touch for a day or so. Where these are indoor plants, you still have to think about where you're spraying them and how you're spraying them. So that is about it on herbs. You can plant them from seed, you can do them from starts. Yeah.
What herbs do you recommend to grow indoors?
Yeah, probably the most popular is basil. You can buy it in stores. It's so popular. Just the plants themselves. Basil, sage, rosemary. It kind of depends if you're using it for cooking or fragrance. Lavender is excellent for, the fragrant smells. Oregano is great, used in a lot of things. But once again, if you want mints or spearmint. But yeah, rosemary, sage, excellent herbs. Basil, can't go wrong with that. But really you can do anything you want. You can try cilantro. Cilantro is kind of unique. I wouldn't recommend it just because it's not as hardy. It won't come back as well as a lot of these other herbs long term. Basil's kind of an in-between too, but sage and rosemary are ones that will always come back, and you can use with frequency and it won't die. They're pretty hardy.
And last question, can you dry them? Is it better to dry them before you use them or pull them off fresh and use them for cooking?
Kind of depends. If you're wanting it fresh, fresh is always going to be best. You just take a handful of each one, go chop it up, put it on a steak while you're basting it or a sauce. But if you're, here it would have been smart before these died, because we obviously didn't use it in time, to cut some of the leaves. As you can see, this one's getting close to dying. The smart thing to do would be to remove it and then dry it. And you can air dry it, just hanging it, or even better is in a food dryer or fruit dryer. It will retain its flavor better. But sage and rosemary are ones you can just dry right on your counter on a paper towel, or hang them from like twine and have them dry in bunches. And then you can actually cut them up or just powder them, and then they become sage powder is usually how you see sage. Rosemary is usually in leaves and sprigs. So you can definitely look up stuff for how to dry herbs, best practices, but it's kind of up to you.
Awesome. Thank you.